So we're going to start this morning with gel removal. And I know that most of you have seen the slides here, but I kind of want to talk through and walk through what a gel removal looks like. And then I'll also let you know where this lives in Google Classroom, because sometimes if you just see the presentation, there are still questions about it, kind of a why behind why whenever we perform a gel removal. So this lives actually in week 2, but I like to focus on it because I want to go over some situations where you would have to do a gel removal. So, and you guys can chime in at home too, but what are some situations where we would actually have to remove the lashes with a gel removal?
If someone else worked on them before and their lashes are like all stuck together
And they were stuck together. Very good. That's usually whenever we do it. So yeah, most of the times if we're correcting, and then you can choose to, like I said before, if you're working for yourself, there are a lot of lash artists who won't lash behind other people. So they want to take everything off and then start it as a fresh set. The majority of the time that you guys get it here in school is whenever they've been put on incorrectly by someone else. So I'll talk briefly about the removal. The video was actually very long because the last class of girls, there was a young lady who had in her outer corner, I think that they had adhered maybe 6 or 7 of her natural lashes together with these huge fans that were way too heavy. So also if the work is very heavy or very shoddy and you can't lash over that or do a refill, we always want to recommend a gel removal. Now we just call it lash removal because they have a cream remover. The cream remover works a little bit more slowly. So I really, what I encourage you to do so that you're not nervous, if there's anyone who doesn't have lashes with us here on campus, of course you ladies at home won't be able to do that on a live person, but doing it on an actual person and then looking at the video, because in the video she did get a little bit of gel remover in her eyes, and so we go over flushing the eyes, because you do want to make sure that you have not only you can have distilled water, but really you want to have like an ophthalmic solution so that we're regulating the pH of the eye and removing everything. So we'll start with the setup, and this is just a picture of a basic setup. So you do need your hand sanitizer. We have the 3D gel remover, and while you're in school, of course, we're going to ask that you use all 3D products, but there are cream removers on the market. Some people prefer those. They just work a little bit more slowly. You have to have your lash shampoo and your water, your fan, and then any of your disposables that you might need. So really, the biggest thing for me would be to have saline solution or an eye wash. You can just use contact solution if you would like, but they also make ophthalmic solution, so that you can flood the eyes should you get any of the gel remover in the eyes. And then, of course, everything else is just going to be pretty standard that you would see here, but there are some key differences. So when you're thinking about a gel remover, really verbiage and checking in with your clients when you're having to do a gel removal service is going to be of the utmost importance, because they need to know what to expect. If you just put this on and they think that, well, this is like a cold liquid and I might squint or whatever, well, it's kind of a jelly form of acetone. That's how they're able to break down those bonds. So obviously, if we're putting acetone around the eyes, we probably want to be very careful and explain to them what we're doing should we get in a situation where we have to remove it. So really the biggest thing for this, and that's why this is so short, but I wanted to talk through it and then show you where the video lives. I'll play it for you guys here, and then all of you can watch it at home and record yourself watching it. But placing the under eye gel pad. So I prefer to use a gel pad with this and not tape, because I don't want to irritate the eye. But if we were doing a traditional lash service, not bottom lashes, where would the gel pad go? Over the bottom lashes. Exactly. And we want to be, just a couple of millimeters below that mucosal line. So that's one of the key differences for a gel removal service. We don't want that gel pad on top of the bottom lashes. We actually push it up underneath the bottom lashes so that they hang over. The reason that we do that is because you have to think, if we're putting any tension on the eye, we don't want the eye to open. So the natural mucosal line, that water line on the top and bottom, that's what provides protection for the eye, and it needs to stay closed throughout the entire service. So the gel pad goes up underneath the lashes. You're just using that, a platform, so that you can paint the gel remover onto the bonds and then remove them. So I think the other thing that we get into, it is going to say avoid contact with the skin. Sometimes you do touch the skin, and you need to let them know, especially in a situation where if they've gone to a previous lash artist where it touches the skin and that's why you're having to remove it, it can heat up the skin or cause a little bit of irritation. So they need to be aware that that's a possibility. It doesn't have a lot of fumes, so I don't think that it's going to burn them necessarily, but they do need to know that there could be a little bit of heat if you do touch the skin. So it's going to feel really, really cool for it to start with, and then it may heat up. Also, I think that people are very, very afraid of getting this right down to where the bonds are. So if we're applying this to lashes, where do the adhesive bonds live? At the base of the lash. So you have to make sure that you're using a lot of product. What will happen is, if you have not used enough product, and I know that if you've had an experience with a gel removal, or those of you who will on the floor, and you see those little white crystals, that means that the adhesive has crystallized. So you broke it down enough that you were able to remove the lashes, but you didn't remove all of the adhesive. So you have to go really, really heavy-handed. It's a very thick layer right at the base of the lashes where the adhesive bonds live. And so the other challenge that I see, this says wait 3 to 5 minutes before working the lashes off. You have to let it do its job. So if you go on and then you immediately start pulling or tugging at them, it hasn't had enough time to break down those bonds. So it usually takes 3 to 5 minutes. And then you can banana peel some of them, but realistically, if you've put a thick enough layer on top of those adhesive bonds, they should just slide right off. If you go in and start tugging, that's where we're going to do damage to the natural lashes. So we put that 3 to 5 minutes in there, but sometimes you have to layer it over and over again. In the video that I'll show you all of you, or that you guys will watch at home, we had to layer it 4 or 5 times over that one place just to make sure that we could get it to remove. So I'm not against you going in and banana peeling after, but really the whole why behind a gel removal and not doing the banana peel or manual method is that we don't want trauma to the natural lashes. So when we talk about cleanse again with lash shampoo and dry, this is after the lashes have been completely removed. So this is just kind of an overview of the steps, and then we'll go through each one. And this is very short because these are very easy, but in the video, we did get into a situation where she squinted a little bit, and when she squinted, it did get into her eye, so we immediately had to do a flush. So one on this, whenever we talk about inclining the client's head, here I prefer to do them in the little black chair that we have for threading. But if you're doing them on one of the beds, or if you guys are doing that on a bed at home on a client, we usually have that pillow to incline their feet. I would take that away. Because their feet don't need to be up, really their head needs to be inclined. If they're tilted forward and you have that active chemical going, the higher they are, the better. So I really prefer to actually do them in that little black chair so that they have a little bit of incline on their head. Or if you had something like the pink chairs that we have in the PMU room, those adjust back and forth so the head can be slightly inclined. Also, if you have an aesthetics bed as opposed to a massage table, that really helps. So that's where you would want to incline the head. Then they go under the lower lashes, so you want to make sure that you're placing that as close as you possibly can up underneath. But remember, we're not laying them down. The only thing this is, it's a platform. So this gives you something to paint on. That's why I prefer, if they're not super sensitive, to use a gel pad, because the gel pad will come right off. You can certainly use tape, but if you do that, it's going to be a little bit harder to remove. And so you want to, as best as you can, stabilize that area so that we're not opening the eye and getting gel remover in. So when you're using the gel remover, we say a small amount of the gel remover onto the microfiber wand, or you can place it on a crystal. It's just making sure that you're not double dipping. So you can use that. You can even use the back of the gel pad package, but you are going to have to place a lot. So you can see here that that bead is visible, that this is one that LA did. You should see a visible bead of adhesive. That's why you have to let them know that they have to keep their eyes closed. So how the conversation goes is, this may feel a little bit cool, or you may feel a little bit of heat if I have to touch the skin to remove something that was adhered to closely. At no time should you squint. You cannot open your eyes. And I even tell them that this is a silent service, because if they move the gel pads, what's going to happen if they start talking? Exactly. It's going to push everything up into their eyes. So we always tell them this is a silent service. If you're immediately performing a set, they can talk after that if they want to, but it's very important that they don't move those gel pads. And on someone like me who has very prominent cheekbones, if I start talking or moving that up, it's immediately going to move that into my eyes. So you want to make sure that you're having a conversation with them, because if at any time this burns, you stop and it's a 911, you flush. Don't panic, because in the video that you guys will watch, we're performing it. It did take a full 45 minutes for us to remove all of her lashes, simply because they had used so much excess adhesive. But the young lady got a little bit timid or a little bit scared when it happened, and I'm like, move. So that's not a time for you to be scared. It's going to happen. You're going to get something in their eye, but they need to know that they should not be sitting there burning or in agony. If they feel any burning whatsoever, you immediately grab your bottle, squeeze, and then you can always start this over. Okay, so it's not always a one and done process. Then you're after you've peeled away your extensions, of course, you can discard your gel pads. Where I've seen people get into trouble with this, whenever you want to take off the gel pad or the tape, what do people immediately want to do? They want to open their eyes, right? Because it's like that immediate relief. So you have to say to them, I'm about to remove your gel pads. Under no circumstances are you to open your eye, because if you've gotten through a whole thing without them burning or irritated, they're going to open it and it's going to push everything in. Okay, so just making sure that you're very aware of that whenever you're explaining the process, because it can be a little uncomfortable, especially if someone's new to it, or oftentimes where this comes into play is they've had lashes done like in a nail salon, or they've had it done by someone who wasn't licensed or trained very well. And so you have to put on a ton of gel remover, and they're already a little bit scared because the first experience was probably less than desirable, right, during their appointment. So just keeping that in mind. And then you always want to wipe off that excess. You remove the gel pads, and you rinse the top of them first. So you always want to rinse everything off. Then you would go in and you could perform a lash bath. Now, what I have seen happen is that you don't rinse first and then you go immediately into your lash bath. If you don't rinse off that from the surface of the eye, what's going to happen whenever you put a brush there?
You're pushing it into the eye.
Exactly. So I go over this over and over again with the young ladies in aesthetics who do lash tinting. If we are putting an active chemical around the eye, we're always dipping out in a way. We're never pushing that up into the eye. So it's the exact same thing with gel remover. So always think, yes, I'm placing a big dab of this, but the motion goes that we place it at the base, and then we're going to kind of scoop that out and away from the eye. We never want to push an active chemical into the eye. So you rinse very well with distilled water, and then you want to do a lash bath. After the lash bath, you have to flush the eyes after every chemical service. So if they were doing a lash lift and tint, you always have to flush the eyes after the service. And what that looks like is you've rinsed them on top. So rinse, remember, is always going to be on the outside. we've wiped that away, we've done a lash bath. Then, and this is very uncomfortable for some people, you will see it on the video whenever we try to do it for you to force their eye open. But you have your paper towel or your 4x4 on the side, and you have to use, I use my index finger, but you have to use your index finger, start the stream, and then prop their eye open and stream that across the lens of the eye. And people are a little scared of it if they cannot open their eye. Or this girl with like a snapping turtle, but I was doing it on. I'm like, girl, come on. And I didn't want to rip her eye open, but you have to see the white of the eye to know that you're getting it in there. And so if someone absolutely can't do that, have them flutter. And if they flutter their eyes back and forth, then you can squeeze that and stream that over. The most important thing, and I flush 2 or 3 times, and I ask them how they're feeling after that. And then this would serve as your prep for your service. So if you were going immediately into a fill, everything's already clean, then you can just make sure that their eyes are super, super dry. I will tell you that a lot of times after you're getting your eyes flushed like that, you can be a little bit red, obviously, but more than anything, you just want to give them a paper towel so that they can go in and make sure that everything's dry and it's not going to get in the way of your lash service if you're putting lashes on after. But just having a conversation, a dialogue through all of it. So please make sure that we don't just, go in with reckless abandon and start this without explaining what's happening, because that can be a little scary, and we want it to be the best service possible for our guests. The cleanse, this one is very, very important. You have to always cleanse, you always have to rinse, and you always have to flush if there's a chemical service involved, and making sure that you're checking in with them, because right here during the cleanse portion, even if you've rinsed the surface of the eye before you go into cleanse, that's where I see a lot of people, because they're a little aggressive with their lash bath, they'll push some of that residual chemical in. So during the cleanse, if they start burning, stop immediately, rinse the outside, and then grab your ophthalmic solution, or we have the saline contact solution, and rinse their eyes out. So you just want to make sure you have that right there at your disposal, because you don't want to sit and let them burn at all. This is a jelly form of acetone, so it's pretty aggressive on the lashes, okay? And then here, so really with this, the incline on the client's head, I think that that's probably the most important. Whenever I was called out to train before on locations, what I would see is that, again, they were trying to incline their feet, or they would have their heads lying back. So they had them in the same position that they would have them for an actual lash application service. That's not what you want to think of, because if they're tilted upward, even just a tiny bit, that's going to reduce the chances that we get gel remover into their eyes. If you are cleansing before, now whenever we say cleansing before, you can do a full lash bath before this. Just make sure that they're dry, because if there's water in the eye and we put any type of chemical substance, what's going to happen? Exactly, the water is going to draw it in, because water acts as a carrier. So you just want to make sure that if you are cleansing them before, they've got a lot of dust or debris makeup. Also, this is a really great time to use you can use an oil-free makeup remover. We have the pre-cleanse on campus, or we also have micellar water. But I would honestly have your client do it themselves. That's why we usually always have a sink and oil-free makeup remover for them, because you want to train your clients to come in clean. This would be something that I would have them do, because they'll remove the majority of the dust, and then placing the pad under the eye to avoid breaking that mucosal line. That's very important, because I've seen people, when you're new, you try to get that gel pad right up here anyway. You get them too high. That's not where it goes. It should be 1 to 2 millimeters lower than the mucosal line. And so any pressure whatsoever or getting that too high, that's why best practice is to always go up underneath the bottom lashes. It's just a platform. You're not protecting anything there. And then very, very gentle. Why I say this is because I've seen some people go in, and when they do that scooping motion to place it, they push down. If you push down, you risk opening the eye. And that gel remover can also have a little bit of fuming, so we don't want their eyes to water, because again, that's going to push the chemical into the eye. Try your best to avoid contact with the skin, because there can be a little bit of There can be a little bit of heat on the skin. It's not bad, but if you've ever dipped your fingers in acetone, you know what it feels like, right? And so imagine that around the delicate skin of the eye, and then keeping your eye wash near in case of an emergency. So you certainly want to have that out on your table, okay? So it's fairly easy, fairly standard in the industry, but practicing on an actual person, for you guys at home, you'll be able to do it on your mannequin head. Practicing on an actual person is best. And that's why I have that video that, like I said, after we go over refills, I'll show you guys in class, and then I'll point all of you online to it. So gel removal, very simple, but just making sure that we're taking time to speak with them about the different processes that we're going through so that they're not scared and they know what to expect. Okay, so let me stop presenting this so that I can see everyone.
When you tell them to go clean, what do you tell them to do? How do you?
So most of the time, especially if you're at an upscale salon, they have a sink with oil-free eye makeup remover, and you're just telling them to remove as much of it as they can. Yeah. Okay. What questions might you have at home about the gel removal? We feel pretty good. Yeah, it's a pretty simple procedure, but I will go in, like I said, I'll post it in the stream, the video of gel removal, so that you guys can watch it. And then you could also, you can record yourself watching it at home. I'm just going to put it on for the girls here because it's 45 minutes long. But why it took so long and why I like for you guys to see that video is there were a couple of times that the remover gets into her eye. So I had this camera and I put it right over there. So let's move on to refills. Now, I'm going to have to move the camera angle and then make sure that you guys can see me, and I'll pin this just to make sure that we can go over refills. Okay. So I know that refills are going to be a pretty standard practice, hopefully, if you're building and maintaining your clientele, but I'm going to use this here just to demonstrate how we would perform a refill. So realistically, if we're rebooking our clients, how often should they come in? Every 2 weeks, right? And especially for brand new clients. What are they doing across there? It sounds like they're cutting down half the building. I don't know if you guys can hear it. But for brand new clients, we're always going to suggest every 2 weeks, simply because we want to know how their lashes are doing, or we want to know if they want to make any adjustments. So some standard questions. What would you ask? And you guys can answer this at home as well. What would you ask when someone came in for a refill?
If they liked the style.
Yeah, so you wanted to ask if they liked what you did the last time, because sometimes they can adjust the technique. So if they were classic, now if they were wanting a little bit more fullness, what can we suggest? Hybrid, right? And then maybe transition them into a volume if they decide that they would like that, optimal fullness. Other things that you get into questions about would be, did you have any challenges with allergies? So if you did, maybe we need to look into doing a sensitive adhesive. Also, this is a time for you if you didn't do it on the first appointment, and I always recommend doing this on the first appointment. Make sure that you have gone over cleaning them, because you're going to be able to see how they maintain them at home. So if they are not cleaning them, it's not a, hey girl, this is disgusting, but between me and the fence post, hey girl, that's disgusting. So it's going to enhance the retention. There was a woman in who said that she was using baby shampoo and a little brush, which was fine. I don't have a challenge with them doing that, but they really do need to use a foam pump if they're not going to purchase it from you, and a brush. And then the other thing that I showed her, because when I looked at her lash line, this was on a keyless guest yesterday, she was cleaning them, but where she was almost creating her own stickies, it looked like buildup throughout the top. And so I just took 2 little doe foot applicators with some primer and then just wiggled that along her lash line. And I gave her some of those, and I was like, girl, every few days, because I don't know if she's using some kind of product. I don't know if she's just overly oily. I have no idea, but she had quite a bit of buildup. And if she's cleaning them every single day, that shouldn't be happening. Right. So we want to talk to them about that and then see if there are any changes that they make. But when people come in with refills, there are some rules to this. So if you've read here, on average, about how much of their natural or their set should they have retained if it's a refill?
70.
I would say somewhere between, you can say 50%, but that's going to get you into a situation where you're not charging enough and doing more work for your refills. So really, if you're doing a refill, 60% of their lashes should be retained. Now, why I say that they should be retained, you guys are new, right? So whenever we're starting, I was like, y'all can't see that, but y'all can hear me. I need like a black marker if we're going to be able to see that on there. About 60% of their lashes should be retained. And if they are not retaining those, so whenever you're starting, we're not going to blame the client, right? Because you're brand new at this. After you get some experience under your belt, then we can start talking about what the client's doing. But the number one thing that people complain about whenever I would open new locations or here in school is retention. And so retention, when we're thinking about it, we have to have very serious conversations with them about what they're doing at home as far as aftercare goes. So really, and I'm going to be 100% transparent. When you're brand new, what do you think the number one cause of retention issues is?
Proper application.
It's in the application, right? And what do you not use enough of? Adhesive. You do not use enough adhesive. So when people say no visible adhesive, absolutely not. There has to be adhesive. Oh, did someone raise their hand? Maddie? Yeah.
Okay, this is a little off topic, but I can get my lashes to stick, but I feel like when I get my lashes done, they're so soft and like fluffy almost,
Mhm.
and I feel like mine are crunchy. Does that make sense?
Well, so no, that's it. That's not off topic. So if you feel like yours are crunchy, it depends on the lash that you're using. So the ones that you have for the school here are mink, and remember the difference between mink and silk is the cut, right? So I don't know which lashes you got because our manufacturers are overseas. So really, it's going to have to do with they're all made of PBT, which is just synthetic polyester. But the cut will have something to do with it. And then also, when you say they feel crunchy, are you talking about on the mannequin head?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Exactly. So if they're on the mannequin head, they're going on top of already hard or stiff synthetic lashes.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
just thought maybe I was doing something wrong. I didn't know if I was using too much glue and that was making it. I don't know. I just wanted to clear that up. Thank you.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, no worries. And they'll feel softer too. The other thing is you have to think about what type of application. If you're doing a volume application and you're using, say, 0.05s, they're going to feel a lot softer than a 0.07 lash. Or if you're doing mega volume, they feel like soft little caterpillars because they're all 0.03 lashes. Okay? So not using enough adhesive. So circling back there, I will preach that forever. There should be visible adhesive. And whenever I say visible adhesive, should it be smoothed out? Absolutely. But if I look and check your lashes, I should be able to see at the stem, if you're doing fans, that there is a bead of adhesive that was there. If you cannot see adhesive, they are not going to stay on. And that's why you have to practice so diligently on your mannequin head. But then why I want you to go through the models, because when I go through and check them, and the girls in the last class, they've already gotten that. They're like, oh God, he's coming over. They're all going to pop off. Well, if they're all going to pop off, then what's going to happen as soon as she runs mascara one through, or as soon as she takes a shower?